Welcome to the Power Exit Podcast. This show is dedicated to business owners who want to scale up, plan smarter, and prepare for the ultimate exit. We'll talk with M&A experts and owners who've been through the process to provide actionable advice so that you can sell your business on your terms and without regret. I'm John Marsh. Join me as we prepare to take control of your exit. All right, welcome to the Power Exit Podcast. We've got one of my good friends here, Dan Mahony. Dan, I'm thrilled to have you, but let's start with the most important thing first. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. I won't say, I'm 57 and I'm telling all my kids they actually named a sauce after me.
Well, there's probably a couple ways we could go with that one, but we'll leave that alone.
What kind of sauce are we talking about?
I think you're talking about ketchup, and yeah, that's all right. I don't know a whole lot of ketchup jokes, but hey, man, thanks for being here. I'm thrilled to have you. You bring a unique perspective to, what we're trying to accomplish here on this podcast, which is providing business owners with the ammunition, the knowledge, the expertise from different industry experts so that they can exit their business on their terms without regret. So I'm gonna throw you into the fire. Let's start quick here. From your perspective, where do folks fall flat? Where do they miss the mark when they're going through an exit, selling their business? And what are some things you wish you could tell them to get it right from your kind of industry knowledge or expertise?
Well, John, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. And that is a great question to start our conversation. I think where businesses do fall short is when you get to that owner dependency when it comes to creating revenue. And a lot of again, what's the statistic? 4 out of 5 businesses don't ever make it to the finish line.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons and a main reason why is there's owner dependency. There's owner dependency in a lot of different areas, but when you look at that revenue generation piece and you look at the creation of revenue for the company and those owners, those founders, those CEOs that are so involved in sales, that's what breaks it. Because I always say you're the biggest asset of your business that's not going with the new owner and the new buyer for any extended period of time. So that's what I think is a big deal killer.
Yeah, and it's we could probably spend the whole podcast talking about this, but let's dive into that just a little bit. You're right. Owner dependency is one of those, big issues if unaddressed will make an exit either not viable or will make it a longer process. No one's going to buy your business and let you walk out the door, 3 months later, period. But especially if the business is overly dependent on you from bringing in the bacon, right? If you are the only rainmaker for the business, that means you're going to have an earnout or you're going to have a longer transition period. And we all know, being entrepreneurs ourselves, that it would be really hard to go back and work for someone else again. And that's what it is when you sell your business. So, we'll talk about specifics, but let's introduce yourself to the group here. I know you as my networking buddy who enjoys cigars at the Red Phone booth in Buckhead. But let's tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do today.
Okay. So I've been a native in Atlanta now for 19 years. I moved here 19 years ago, originally from Chicago, and moved here for a job and kind of never looked back. I got into sales early in my career. I started out doing raw sales when I was in college, actually. Yeah, I used to be the chip guy. I worked for Frito-Lay. I worked for a division of Anheuser-Busch, and I used to do vacation routes.
Oh, wow.
During school in the summer, and I made really good money and put myself through college just driving around, selling, stocking shelves at grocery stores. So
Good for you.
that led me to my first job out of college. I worked for Keebler. I got my first job. I worked at a college called Elmer's College.
Wait, Elf? Keebler Elf?
The Elf. Yeah. And the funny thing about that is I got my first job. I finished my last final exam in Elmhurst College and drove across town and 30 minutes later to Keebler corporate headquarters in Elmhurst and started my sales career.
Wait, so what year was that?
That was 1990.
Why
myself.
Why are you still wearing the uniform?
That's right. Oh, yeah, uh-huh. So, well, the funny thing about it is, so I had a boss, and if he ever listens to this, he'd be pissed at me, but he used to travel with me, and they always used to kid and go, "Oh, Dan, I mean, oh, so you brought the Keebler elf with you?" Because he was, like, 5'2", and I would go out and work with him. I'm, 6'2", 6'3", and he didn't work with me very often, just really people would make the elf comment, so but fast forward to that, I got into healthcare sales, a couple years after that and moved into healthcare sales to hospital information systems and then into capital equipment and technology. And, fast forward, I had a great corporate career. And then, actually about 7 years ago, I just got burned out of all the travel, a couple million miles of travel and a couple thousand hotel nights. And I just like, I just need to do something for myself and be more grounded and not live on an airplane all across North America 60% of my life. And, I backed into this role in a fractional role, actually.
Yeah, I was going to ask you why fractional. Maybe you can tell us why you enjoy that model for yourself.
Well, I didn't even know that I was gonna be getting into it. I originally got out of my corporate career, thought I was gonna get into corporate real estate. I was gonna get into a vertical in healthcare and help, say, physician offices and dentist offices find real estate. And I actually went and took all the exam. I've got all the classes, and I was ready to take the exam. And I decided right before I was gonna take the exam, like, I don't really wanna do this. Just and my wife was like, "You spent all those hours studying and everything, and you decided." And I said, "Yeah, I just decided that this isn't for me." So, right at that point, I got a phone call from somebody that used to work for me and said, "Hey, I've got a company. I kinda need some help,
Yeah.
and I don't know what I think maybe you can help me." And I started doing some consulting for him, and it just flourished into starting a fractional, consulting firm
Yeah.
and
So
sales.
Transcendent Sales Solutions is the name of your business today. Um, who do you serve and what do you do for them?
So, the businesses I serve are predominantly B2B businesses, usually in the range of 2 to 50 million. The most of the companies I work for are in the 5 to 50 million range, and 5 to 20 million. And typically, where those owners are is they in a couple scenarios. They're either, most of them have never had a sales leader
Mm,
or have tried to hire a sales leader before and have been very ineffective.
okay.
They're either at a stall point as far as their growth, okay, and that's one scenario, and they're just they keep hitting the wall because it's that definition of insanity. Um, they're either on a high, trajectory growth path of, "Hey, we're growing so fast, we know we can't scale."
Right.
And those are a good number of business I work, but then I work with a lot of those business owners that are thinking about the exit.
Yeah.
And, they might be talking to somebody like John Marsh and they know that they want to sell, but they're just not ready yet. And they know they're not ready and they need a couple years. And one of the reasons why is their sales organization isn't where it needs to be.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk a little bit about, what a scalable sales infrastructure looks like from your perspective. So if we're talking about, we'll just use an HVAC business doing $20 million of revenue. And they've built it on their own back. They've been just doing business the way they've been doing business without much thought. So they've been, building it as it grew. Um, what are you doing for them, and what does a scalable system look like, a business development marketing system, look like from your perspective?
Yeah, so a good infrastructure is going to have some key components. First of all, they have to have a good strategy, a good growth strategy that's going to be about building new business opportunities. Now, an HVAC company, there's a lot of service aspects to it. And of course, they're selling new machines, but they probably have some recurring revenue. But most of the businesses, yeah, hopefully, right, for if they're going to exit. But most of those businesses that you see, they struggle with new business acquisition. So, and that's one of the infrastructure piece. So they have a good strategy for new business acquisition. They have to have the right people in place. Okay, so that's people. So Do they have the right processes? Do they have a good, solid sales process that is repeatable, that is something that they can continue to do, and it works on a consistent basis with good conversion rates? And then they have to have good systems. They have to have good systems in place to manage the activities of sales, as well as have the key metrics to look and that will tell them what success looks like.
Yeah, no, that's, in that HVAC example, um, revenue, EBITDA, net income, gross margin, all extremely important to show. Uh, but what is equally important and often neglected is the backlog and the pipeline. And, these businesses, buyers want to buy businesses, especially construction type businesses that have a backlog and a pipeline of jobs coming down. Is that something that you help folks do, to build the CRM with the reports that's needed, put those metrics in place? I guess I'm in a long-winded way asking you to talk about what some of those key metrics are that a business owner who's thinking about exiting should be looking for or looking at.
Absolutely. So systems are important. Having a good CRM system and having something that's going to track activities. Um, I always say a good CRM system, and there's so much automation tools now with AI that you can do a lot. It could do a lot of the pre-work for you. It's important, but a CRM system is not going to sell deals.
Yeah.
What is going to sell deals is a solid pipeline and a good backlog. What I typically find when I work with business owners is whatever the business is, HVAC or a longer kind of enterprise sale, like a bigger, software or something like shit takes more time. They have these pipelines and they are grossly unqualified because they have all these deals that are in the pipe that they're working. And when you really dig in and start looking at them, because they don't have any consistency, there's a lot of pieces that are missing that they should have found out early on that maybe we shouldn't have been chasing this in the first place. So, and that comes with that sales process. Now, an HVAC business is more transactional in its place. It's 88 degrees in Atlanta today. If my air condition was out or my heat pump was out, I'm going to buy something like the next day or two versus something that's a longer term cycle. They put all these time working on these deals, and they put all these cycles and all these proposals and meetings, but there's key components that they've never asked in the beginning that if they did, they'd realize they probably should have been spending all that time on that in the first place.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, pipeline is important, but a pipeline without any thought is not helpful. I've had a person, a client, send me a screenshot of a yellow legal pad as their pipeline, and it was legitimate. Like, this is how he tracked his pipeline. Now, obviously, I had to clean that up, and we had to assign a level of probability to every deal and all this stuff. But his system worked. The key there is that it was a system. He had one notebook for all the backlog and or all the pipeline. Um, Most folks don't do that, and when we're selling a business, we're going to market. One of the things that's often neglected is a forecast, a simple forecast. And you're a sales guy, you've probably heard it, right? Someone said, "Oh, we did 5 million in revenue last year. I think we're going to at least do 45 million next year." And that's the sales guy, right? Um, so how do you build the team when it's built on an owner? Like, what are you coming in and, in that legal yellow pad example, the contractor who's sitting in his truck, what are you going to help him do to build a scalable organization from a human capital perspective?
So typically, owners in that particular case are very involved in the sales cycle.
Yeah.
They're not typically, when they get to that scale, they're only salesperson. I mean, they have a sales team. They started out with themselves and they build people around. But what I find in businesses like that is those representatives that work for them are so dependent on that owner, and that owner is so involved in in the transaction from early stages. So, and again, it's that crutch, that salesperson. And then the owner's like, my sales team, I'm doing everything. They don't really do much. They do proposals for me. So one of the things I do is we sit down and they have a system. I call it the kind of the GOAT system. Yeah, like, look, you're the greatest of all time at what you do. You started this business, you bootstrap this, and there's things in there that we're never going to get somebody that's going to do it the way you're going to do it, hands down. But there's a way that we can set this up where we could put a lot of your criteria in the sales process, a structured sales process, and then not almost every deal, but maybe even toward the end, if there's an appearance that you as the founder or the next owner of the company needs to make in when we get it to a certain point where you need to come in and shake the hand and give them that confidence, we can do that. But you're not involved in this from the very beginning. You're involved more in a later stage when we're getting down to a very strong qualified deal that's ready to close.
Right.
And that's just how you scale a business.
Interesting. I like that. Thank you for that, for sharing that. So, Dan, we're entering the baby boomer generation, or we're already in the silver tsunami where business owners are retiring, they're moving on to life 2.0. How long does it take to do this? A lot of folks are probably listening saying, oh my gosh, I should have done this 10 years ago. How long does it take on average for you and your process to make an impact to help make that exit more lucrative for our
Mhm.
clients?
Yeah, because it's all about why they wanna do it is to increase valuation at the end. So, again, it depends. Again, I think with transactional businesses, like someone that like that HVAC company, it's a quicker process because they can see the fruits of their labor right away. I mean, a lot of the things we focus on is if we can just do a better job qualifying business, okay, in the beginning, and I always say to get to know quicker,
Yeah.
if we can wipe out all the ones that are the tire kickers and spend our time and focus on the ones that are really qualified and are the type of deals that really fit our ideal company profile and our ideal client profile, that's what moves the needle. So you'll see it quicker on the transactional side versus somebody has a 6 to 9 month sale. It might take a little bit longer.
Yeah, no, and I get that. So, like my business, right? It takes 9 to 12 months on average to sell the business from the time I'm engaged developing the marketing materials. It's a long time. It also takes significant time building the trust and completing the valuation work we do. Um, so our sales cycle is a lot longer than someone in your example who's, 88 degrees in Atlanta and, they hear pop and all of a sudden it's getting hot. So but I guess the point I'm trying to get to is it's not too late for these folks to call someone like you or call you and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about exiting in blank." What do you like to hear without knowing anything about a business yet? What's the magic number? Is it 6 months? Is it 2 years? Is it 5 years?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, to actually put the system in, and if I just go in and focus on putting somebody's infrastructure in, it's could take, and again, of course, I'm not working on it full time. 4 months, 4 to 6 months, depending on the components, depending on the complexity, depending on the people involved. If you have one or two representatives, it's one thing. If you have 10 or 12 that we gotta bring it, so a lot of that's dependent. But you can see the fruits of the labor right away. I find the biggest impact is usually if we can get in right away and just get the reps focused on qualified business versus everything. Because look, we're in sales, you're in sales too. Sales reps and sales representatives and professionals fall in love with deals real easy. It's easy to fall in love because you sit there and you go, okay, this is the a rate of the deal and this is my commission. And they get like these big eyes. But again, you got to have that reality check is does it meet the criteria that's going to actually close? If we can get them focused, say I'd say sometimes scrap and waste on sales calls could be 60% of their sales calls. 60% of their time is working on stuff that they shouldn't be
Mm,
working on. If we can just flip that and get them 100% focused on 100% of business that's qualified, I mean, the needle can change drastically
that's
just with
fascinating.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating, and obviously, this goes without saying, but all of us, a business owner, me, the buyer, we wanna see growth in the business. We wanna see a trend. And sometimes that's hockey stick, sometimes it's slow and steady, but there's gotta be uh, vision into the future of that too. And especially if, you know, John Marsh of John Marsh HVAC is retiring and going away. And so we're hitting on that owner dependency again. So I don't want to beat that drum too much, but let's kind of shift gears and move to a buyer's perspective. We've got, very sophisticated buyers, whether they're individuals or private equity. What are you seeing from their perspective? What makes a business appealing to them from a sales perspective or infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, first thing, and I know we beat the drum, but definitely a business that is creating new revenue that's non-owner dependent. So definitely that. But that's one thing. But somebody, I mean, the main thing is they want to see um they love recurring revenue models. Again, that recurring revenue, that hockey stick. Um, but really, I think what they're looking for is organizations that have the ability and have shown the ability to convert new business because many of these businesses, and I'm sure you see this in all the types of business you're evaluating, they have that, they have X amount of business, a high percentage of business coming from 2 to 3 clients, or they have that one client that makes 60% of their business up. Though I know that scares buyers because all it takes is
Yeah.
one thing that could change the trajectory of that business. So I think they're looking for that ability to really create new business. And I think they're looking for companies that, really have a good infrastructure. I mean, if they ask, hey, what is your conversion rates? What are your close rates? How many leads are you converting into opportunities? Um, what does your pipeline and look like? And what does your weighted pipeline look like? Those simple questions that are in the early parts of due diligence, if they don't have those answers and they're fumbling around for them, that's a big red flag.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So Dan, we had the opportunity to work together on a mutual client, and they had a successful exit. That business was unique in that there were several shareholders. We were dealing with the CEO, who was a very capable and good man. Those shareholders were looking for a liquidity event. Tell us a little bit about what that client did at a high level and what you did for them to get them ready for when I came in.
Yeah. So, I worked with that client for several years actually. And, when I started with them, they were very dependent on that CEO. They were selling to very large businesses, Fortune 250 companies. And when I got there, they had a very underperforming, very transactional based sales organization, transactional minded in a very complex sales environment where a new sale would take 9 to 18 months to sell. So, getting on the phone with, a big company going, "Hey, what do you think you're going to be? Send us an order." It was that bad as they just had some wrong people. The CEO was very involved in the business and he was very involved in every aspect of every meeting of every business meeting that was happening in sales, which was just it just wasn't going to work. So, when I came in, we evaluated the sales team. We definitely made some personnel moves, and I recommended some personnel moves and some people that just really needed to probably didn't have, not the right seat on the bus and maybe were on the wrong bus altogether. So, and we started hiring and we brought some additional people on. It took us a while to build a pipeline. We started building a stronger pipeline. We started working on messaging. Um, over time, we also looked at their revenue model. Is their revenue model was very much a license fee plus software maintenance. And at that time, the market was really moving more to a SaaS model. So one of the things we also did after that first year was we moved full into a SaaS model. So the backlog they had on SaaS revenue was,
Yeah.
you know, very low. And I know, within the time frame that I work with them, they had built that SaaS model up to, millions and millions of dollars with the deals that ended up starting closing. So, the result was I think their financials definitely looked better. They had 5-year guaranteed revenue coming in on some very large contracts that were closed over that period of time. And I exited the business, and then they had that liquidity event, that exit event. I think it was probably about 9 months later. They were able to exit at, I knew, again, it was a private transaction. I know what the walk away price was like, and that's what we're going to walk away from with their investors, and they sold it. So they made it.
It
So
was a great deal for them. Yeah, for sure. Uh, so it sounds like you did a lot there, and you were attending conferences, you were in all the meetings, you were in the pitches to prospects. Is that typical where you're rolling your sleeves up, doing some of the work as well, or are you typically building the team and helping find the resources, or a combination of the two?
yeah, so that's a good question. So a lot there's with different ways that I engage with clients. I can just engage with them and help them build their infrastructure and help them build a good solid sales infrastructure and foundation. Sometimes they have a sales leader that needs help and I'll help them kind of put that together because they don't have the experience to do it, or maybe they have never done it before. In other cases, not only will I do and help them build that infrastructure, but at the same time, I'm going to take over the day to day direct management of the sales team. Those are the engagements that take a little bit more time because I'm not only am I, and I will get involved day to day. I'll get involved with the day to day, and we'll get involved at deals at a certain level. Now, I'm not gonna become if the CEO is bringing me on because he's too much involved in sales, I'm just not gonna take his place and be the one that the sales reps were gonna dump on to go and sell, but spend a lot of time with those kind of companies and the one-on-ones and the sales meetings, just really taking a very strategic look at everything they're doing, spending time analyzing deals and analyzing the ones we should spend our time on, and just really strong strategy on the back end. And how are we going to get this from where we're at to the next level so we can get to close?
Yeah,
So,
and also, yeah, that's a good example because you did, and they had the resources to build. So, Dan, I'm sure you love it when a client has the resources and the budget for you to build a team. But in that situation where an owner is, the rainmaker and there's not a team, obviously that's a longer process, right? For you to come in and help identify those folks. What do you prefer? Or if you had your ideal situation, do you prefer to have a large budget and build a large team, or do you prefer to address that owner dependency issue with maybe somebody who can only afford to hire two people?
yeah, again, even if they have a large budget, I always say, "Hey, listen, let's start out this with 1 or 2 to start," because
Yeah,
I've seen I'll call it the big bang approach, where we've got this big budget and we're just gonna go out and hire 10 people right off the bat. Um, I like to say, "Hey, look, let's do the first 2." Now I've done 3 at a time,
sure.
and let's get them up and running and make sure we know what we're looking for when we actually start hiring. I spend a lot of time helping them hire the right salespeople as well. So once we get those, then we know the ideal rep that we're looking for so we could start scaling it. So, but I think sometimes, like anytime you're like, hey, we're on this big hiring thing, we're just going to go hire hundreds of reps or, 10, 15 reps. Big companies do that all the time. But I think these small businesses, it's a lot to swallow all at once. Where if you had 3 or 4 reps and then we're going to go up to 10 or 12, it's a lot to swallow to do that overnight, basically.
Yeah, for sure. So we talked a little bit about the good story, right? The company that we both worked on that moved to a SaaS model and had a good exit. We don't like to dwell on the bad, but there's a lot to be learned from mistakes of others. Uh, Other than the owner dependency, what other mistakes have you seen that really just think, gosh, I wish I could have had a bigger impact there, or they needed someone like me, someone maybe who didn't even work with you?
I think again, where I've had engagements that haven't gone as the way that I would have liked them is really a lot has to do with the owner themselves.
Yeah.
If they're willing to let go because they know that they need to make change and they know in order to exit the business the way that they want to exit it, they need to make change. But knowing that they need to make change and then actually accepting change are two different things. So typically what I've seen is when the business isn't getting the results they're looking for, it comes right back to the CEO or the owner that just doesn't want to change.
Yeah.
They say all the right things, but when the rubber hits the road, they're not willing to put in everything that needs to be done. So, and again, I approach it as, hey, look, this is your business. And I understand. I mean, I have experience in helping you get to where you want to. If something's working, let's keep doing it. I'm not going to just come in to change things just to change things, but you have to be willing to make change. And if they're not, that's typically where we don't get off as far off the ball as we want to.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's great. Well, thanks for sharing that. Dan, I really appreciate you being here on the Power Exit podcast with me today. I think you've dropped a lot of knowledge here, and I would love for the audience to really take what you've said to heart. So, where could listeners find you? Where could they learn more? I know you've got a great newsletter that I enjoy reading. So, yeah, if you wouldn't mind just telling folks where they can
Yeah.
find you.
So you could find me on the web at transcendentsales.com. Go to my website. I'm on LinkedIn. You could find me on LinkedIn, Dan Mahony and Transcendent Sales Solutions. And then in my profile on LinkedIn, I have a newsletter that I send out content bi-weekly, and it's called The Growth Catalyst.
I love it.
So it's got good sales content in there that will be helpful to anyone that's looking to improve their sales organization.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, hey, I just want you to know I don't normally get my good friends birthday presents, but you're welcome for having you on the podcast on your birthday. I hope it was a great present for you.
John, it was a great present to spend time with you on my birthday. This is my first to be able to do that with you. But no, thank you so much for having me on the show today, and I really really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I really hope our audience can listen and really take control of their exit from a business development and sales standpoint by listening to some of the nuggets you dropped here. So thanks, Dan. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks, John.